In 2020, Australia's entire map had to be rewritten because the ground itself had slipped nearly 2 meters from where GPS thought it was. But the real shock came next. Scientists uncovered a freshwater reservoir beneath the outback, ancient and vast enough to dwarf many lakes, hidden for up to 100,000 years. If the very shape of a continent can shift beneath our feet, what else are we missing about Australia's true geography? Dr. John Dawson's phone lit up with an alert from the CORS network, a network of permanent GPS stations stretching from the Kimberley to Tasmania. The numbers didn't add up. Across Australia, surveyors and miners were reporting sudden mismatches between their GPS devices and the land beneath their boots. The culprit? The continent itself was on the move, drifting north at about 7 centimeters a year, fast enough to outpace any other landmass on Earth. Over 2.5 decades, this relentless slide had pulled Australia nearly 1.8 meters away from where its official maps said it should be. For decades, Australia's geodetic datum, the mathematical model underpinning every map, property line, and navigation system, had been locked to a fixed position, GDA 94. But satellites orbiting overhead, tracking the shifting crust in real time, were telling a very different story. By 2020, the gap between where GPS thought you were standing and where the old maps claimed you should be had grown wide enough to swallow a fence post or throw off a mining blast by the width of a car. For emergency services, surveyors, and the booming world of autonomous vehicles, a 1.8 meter error wasn't just embarrassing, it was dangerous. Dawson sounded the alarm at a series of tense meetings with the Intergovernmental Committee on Surveying and Mapping. He laid out the evidence, the CORS network's time series data, the growing stack of field reports, the billion-dollar risks to infrastructure and safety. The solution wasn't a patch, it was a national reset. On January 1st, 2020, Australia officially adopted GDA 2020, shifting every coordinate in the country northeast by nearly 2 meters overnight. It was the first time in modern history that an entire continent's map had been redrawn, not because the land changed, but because the truth had finally caught up. But even GDA 2020 was only a stopgap. The ground never stops moving. Dawson and his team are already building a dynamic reference frame, one that updates in real time as the continent slides toward Indonesia. For now, every property boundary, every road, every pipeline has been nudged into place. But the lesson is clear. In Australia, even the ground beneath your feet can't be trusted to stay put. The question is, what else lies hidden, waiting to be discovered, just out of sight and just beyond the edge of the map? A CSIRO geologist stands beside a battered Land Cruiser, holding a device that looks more at home on a spaceship than in the heart of Western Australia. In 2020, CSIRO's airborne electromagnetic survey swept low and slow over the Canning Basin, trailing sensors that mapped the invisible deep beneath the red earth. What they found stunned even the most seasoned hydrologists: a freshwater reservoir stretching across 20,000 square kilometers, an underground ocean, hidden for tens of thousands of years. This was not just a trickle trapped in the rock, but a labyrinth of ancient rivers, now entombed below the outback. The water's journey began in a world unrecognizable today, when megafauna roamed and the climate pulsed between wet and dry. Groundwater samples tested with radiocarbon dating revealed ages up to 40,000 years. Some pockets traced their origin to rainfall that fell long before the first humans set foot on the continent. CSIRO's lead geologist, voice crackling over the radio, called it a revelation that rewrites everything we thought we knew about the heart of Australia. The Canning Basin's Wallal Sandstone Aquifer, mapped for the first time in such detail, holds water older than the oldest desert paintings. In the southern reaches, fresh recharge still trickles in, but as you move northwest, the water grows ancient, brackish, tinged with the memory of vanished ice ages. This hidden sea is not just a scientific marvel, it is a lifeline for remote communities, cattle stations, and increasingly the mining giants eyeing the outback's mineral wealth. The scale of it dwarfs any surface river, enough to fill Lake Eyre several times over, locked away beneath a crust that seems from above dry and lifeless. Yet the discovery brings as many questions as answers. How much of this ancient water can be tapped without running the well dry? What secrets lie in the chemistry of these buried flows? As the CSIRO team packs up their gear, the sense of OW lingers. In a land where even the ground slides beneath your feet, the real treasures might be those you will never see. Oceans of time sealed under stone, waiting for the next chapter in Australia's strange geography. Confidential emails leaked from a Queensland government inbox land on a hydrogeologist's desk. The numbers are grim. Up to 5 meters of water table drawdown is projected, and 27 billion litres are drained every year to keep a single coal mine dry. At stake is the Great Artesian Basin, a pressurized reservoir older than the dinosaurs, its waters feeding ancient springs and sacred sites for traditional owners. Industry lobbyists flood Parliament with glossy models, promising clay barriers will seal off damage. But behind closed doors, government scientists warn of fault lines and fractures that could carry contaminants for kilometers, connecting mining pits to springs that have flowed since megafauna roamed the outback. One internal memo admits the risk, stating that fault connectivity cannot be ruled out. For the Bidni people, whose stories are etched into the land, the threat is not theoretical. If the pressure drops, springs could vanish in a single dry season, an irreplaceable loss. The battleground is set. Billion-dollar mining ambitions versus the slow, invisible pulse of water shaped over 300 million years. 500 million years ago, long before any tree or animal had set foot on land, a colossal force deep within the earth began to squeeze and buckle the heart of what would become Australia. The Petermann Orogeny, a mountain-building event so ancient it predates complex life, thrust up a range rivaling the Himalayas, right in the middle of the continent. Along the Woodroffe Thrust, solid slabs of rock, hundreds of meters thick, rode up and over each other, grinding and folding the crust into towering peaks. But these mountains were doomed from the start. With no roots of vegetation to hold them, they eroded at a furious pace, shedding torrents of coarse, feldspar-rich sand called arkose into massive alluvial fans that spread out across the newly formed Amadeus Basin. Those fans became the raw material for Uluru and Kata Tjuta. Each grain of arkose and granite in these icons is a relic of the vanished range, their mineral fingerprints matching the rocks still buried deep beneath the desert. Over millions of years, new seas drowned the debris, compacting it into stone, only for later upheavals to tilt the layers nearly vertical. Today, Uluru stands as the last exposed fragment of a mountain system erased by time, its red flank a silent witness to earth-shaping violence that no human could imagine. Yet beneath the sand, the skeleton of that ancient range still waits, fragile and unseen, as miners and drillers chase the last whispers of its mineral wealth. Reg Dodd stands at the edge of Kati Thandar, the salt crust shimmering under the sun. In his voice, the Arabana song lines come alive. Ancient verses once guided people across these dunes, mapping waterholes and ridges long before satellites or surveyors. Researchers have digitized hundreds of these paths, tracing their logic against the land. The results are startling. The routes, remembered in song, often track with uncanny accuracy to the most efficient crossings and richest springs, sometimes outpacing the best computer models. These are not just stories, but living archives of geography, trade, and survival, encoded in memory and passed down for thousands of years. Yet the future presses in. The Bureau of Meteorology's latest recharge models warn that rainfall feeding these hidden aquifers could fall by nearly 40% within a generation, echoing the sharp declines already measured in South Australia. Springs that survived ice ages may dry up before today's children grow old. As the climate shifts and the old water runs thin, the question grows urgent. Whose knowledge will Australia trust to find tomorrow's lifelines? The answer may shape not just maps, but the fate of entire communities. For the Arabana, the old songs still hold the way forward if anyone is willing to listen. Australia's land still shifts 7 centimeters each year, and ancient water waits beneath the dust. Every new discovery here isn't just a curiosity, it is a warning and an opportunity. In a world of changing climate and growing resource strain, what lies underfoot may decide the nation's next frontier. Share your thoughts below.